The wind howled outside like a wounded animal as dark clouds covered the moon, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The narrow gravel road crunched beneath your boots as you approached the small white frame house at the edge of town. You gripped the handle of your bag tightly, your knuckles turning white from the strain. This was it, the Moore house. You had heard stories about the place, whispers in the local tavern. People spoke of the family's generosity, their kindness, and their simple lifestyle. But tonight something felt off. The house stood unnervingly still, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something, or someone. You reached the front steps, pausing for a moment. The air around you was thick with moisture, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed like a growl from the belly of a sleeping beast. A single lamp flickered inside the house, its dim glow barely illuminating the lace curtains. Knock, knock, knock. You raised your fist to knock, but the door slowly creaked open on its own. Your heart skipped a beat. The house was silent. No voices, no laughter, just the soft creaking of old wood. "Hello?" you called out, your voice swallowed by the darkness. No response. You stepped inside, your boots tapping softly on the hardwood floor. Shadows stretched unnaturally long in the dim light, flickering with every movement of the lantern on the kitchen table. The smell of old wood, iron, and something faintly sweet filled the air. "Hello? Is anyone here?" you repeated, louder this time. A child's giggle echoed from upstairs. Your heart stopped. It was soft but distinct, a playful, innocent giggle. Chills ran down your spine. You closed the door behind you, sealing yourself inside the house. The creaking hinges echoed like a scream. Slowly you made your way through the narrow hallway, passing photographs of the Moore family. Each face stared at you wide-eyed, frozen in time. Their smiles felt wrong, too forced, too knowing. You glanced at the stairs leading up to the second floor. The giggle came from up there. "Kids?" you called, trying to sound calm. "Is someone playing up there? Share a link to chat?" This creates a copy that others can chat with. The house remained silent, but you could hear faint movements, like the soft patter of feet on the wooden floor above you. "Hello? This isn't funny." A floorboard creaked loudly, directly above your head. You stopped breathing for a moment. Someone was up there. Someone was walking above you. Your eyes darted to the kitchen. A small lantern flickered on the table, next to a set of knives. Your mind lingered on the knives for just a second too long. Deciding to confront whoever was upstairs, you slowly made your way up the steps, each one creaking louder than the last. Your breath came in shallow, uneven gasps. You felt like an intruder. When you reached the top of the stairs, you were met with a long, dim hallway. The air was colder up here, and it smelled faintly of metal like blood. To your left, there was a bedroom. You glanced inside. Two small beds with blankets neatly tucked in. Toys were scattered on the floor, a doll with one eye missing, a wooden horse with chipped paint, and a small ball resting perfectly still in the middle of the room. The ball suddenly rolled toward you, slow but steady, as if someone had pushed it. You froze. No one else is here. No one else is here. No one else is here. A faint sound came from behind you, sound of a whisper. He's watching. You spun around, heart hammering in your chest. The hallway was empty. Your breathing was shallow now. Sweat clung to your skin despite the cold air. Something is wrong here. Something is very wrong. You heard it again. The giggle. But it wasn't playful this time. It was distorted, guttural, like it came from a throat that didn't quite know how to laugh. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy footsteps echoed from the other end of the hallway. The sound was slow and deliberate, like someone was dragging something heavy. You saw nothing at first, just shadows dancing along the far wall. But then, a figure emerged. At first it was just darkness, a shape too tall to be a child. It moved unnaturally, its joints bending in the wrong direction as it walked toward you. The dim light from the hallway window barely revealed its features, but you saw enough, a face obscured by shadows. eyes hollow like empty sockets. And in its hand, an axe. No, 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 no. You step backward, heart racing, every survival instinct in your body screaming to run. But you couldn't. Your legs felt like lead. The figure tilted its head, as if curious about you. Then, in an instant, it charged forward. No! You screamed, stumbling back into the children's room. The door slammed behind you, and you pressed your back against it, heart pounding in your chest like a drum. The axe struck the door once, then twice. Each blow was louder than thunder. The door splintered. You ran for the window, but it wouldn't budge. The room grew colder, colder than ice. Your breath came out in short, visible puffs. The walls seemed to close in around you. The third strike shattered the door. The figure stepped inside, its shadow casting long, jagged lines on the wall. It raised the axe high, slow and deliberate, savoring the moment. You backed up, eyes wide with terror. Your foot bumped into something. You glanced down. The one-eyed doll was staring back at you, its smile now twisted into a sneer. You screamed. A small figure peeked out from under the bed. A child, a little boy. His eyes were wide with terror. It was Paul Moore, only 5 years old. He reached his hand toward you, his lips trembling. "Help me," he whispered. The shadowy figure's head snapped toward Paul. "No, no, no," you shouted, scrambling forward to grab the boy. But it was too late. The axe came down with a sickening crunch. Blood splattered on the walls like red ink on parchment. Paul's eyes went lifeless. His small hand outstretched toward you went limp. Time slowed. Your breath caught in your throat. You had failed him. The figure turned toward you, the axe dripping with blood. Its hollow eyes bored into you, filled with something worse than rage enjoyment. You ran, faster than you had ever run in your life. You sprinted down the hall, nearly tripping on the last step. The sound of the figure's footsteps followed you, slow but steady, like it knew you couldn't escape. You flung open the front door and ran out into the night. The storm had arrived, rain drenching you within seconds. Lightning flashed, illuminating the silhouette of the house behind you. The storm raged outside as thunderclaps echoed like cannon fire. Rain pounded the roof, filling the air with a relentless drumming sound. You stood in the middle of the dirt road, breath ragged, heart racing like it would burst from your chest. Every fiber of your being screamed for you to run, to leave that cursed house behind. But you didn't. Your eyes remained locked on the second-floor window. Lightning illuminated the figure standing there tall, unmoving, and holding an axe that dripped with the blood of Paul Moore. You took a step back, your breath fogging the air. Run, run, run. But something didn't let you move. Maybe it was the guilt, the feeling that you had abandoned that boy. Or maybe it was the silent call of the house itself, like invisible hands pulling you back. "No," you muttered, shaking your head. "I'm not going back in there." You turned to run, but as soon as your foot touched the ground, you heard it. Thump, thump, thump. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed behind you. Your muscles froze. It wasn't the sound of rain or thunder. It was closer. He was coming. You whipped around, eyes wide, scanning the road behind you. But there was nothing there. Just rain, shadows, and the distant glow of street lamps. Thump, thump, thump. The sound was louder now, closer. You couldn't see him, but you knew he was there. Your eyes shot back to the second-floor window. Empty. The figure was gone. "No, no, no, no," you whispered, backing away slowly, eyes darting from side to side. You felt like prey, like a deer that had seen the glint of a predator's eyes in the woods. You backed away from the house, your breath shallow, until your back hit something solid. Tap, tap. A cold hand tapped your shoulder. You spun around, your scream caught in your throat, but there was no one there, only shadows. Cold rain dripped down your face, blinding your vision for a moment. You rubbed your eyes frantically, heart pounding so hard it echoed in your ears. "Calm down," you muttered to yourself, clutching your arms. It's just your mind playing tricks. Another flash of lightning. You saw him. He was standing in the middle of the road, 30 feet away. The lightning struck again, illuminating every horrifying detail. His head tilted unnaturally to the side, his face obscured in a shadow. But you could see his grin. A wide, twisted grin that didn't belong on any human face. The axe in his hand hung lazily by his side, dragging in the mud as he took a slow, shuffling step toward you. Thump, thump, thump. His footsteps were heavier now, deliberate, as if he wanted you to hear every moment of his approach. "No," you muttered, taking a step back. "Stay away." He didn't stop. You turned and ran, fast, faster than you had ever run before. Rain pelted your face, your lungs burned with every breath, and your legs screamed with exhaustion. But you didn't stop. The sound of footsteps followed, faster, louder, closer. You didn't know why, but your legs carried you back to the house, back to the very place you swore you'd never enter again. You reached the front porch, soaking wet, and flung open the door. It creaked louder than before. The air inside was still and suffocating. Every shadow seemed sharper, every noise amplified. The door swung shut behind you with a force that made you jump. Bang! You spun around, eyes wide, heart hammering in your chest. "He's outside," you whispered to yourself. "He's still outside." Or was he? You leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Your hands shook uncontrollably. The kitchen was dark now. The lantern had gone out. Shadows swallowed the corners of the room, growing longer with each flash of lightning from the windows. Then you heard it. Thump. It was upstairs. "No," you whispered, shaking your head violently. "No, no, no." But the thumping didn't stop. It moved slowly down the hallway above you. You knew exactly where it was heading, toward the children's room. Your heart dropped as you remembered. Mary Catherine and Ina Stillinger were still up there. You moved slowly, each step heavy with dread. Your mind screamed at you to leave, but you knew you couldn't. You had to get to them. You had to save them. With every creak of the stairs, the air grew colder. You felt it pressing down on your shoulders like a weight, making it harder to breathe. When you reached the top of the stairs, you could hear it more clearly. A faint scratching. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound was coming from the children's room. Slowly you approached, placing one hand on the doorframe. Your breath was shallow, your pulse thundering in your ears. "Mary," you whispered. "Ina?" Silence. You peeked inside. The bed was covered in a tangle of blankets, and the window was wide open, letting in the cold rain. You stepped inside, eyes darting around. The room was empty. But the scratching didn't stop. It was coming from under the bed. "No," you muttered, backing up. "No, please, no." But you had to know. You dropped to your knees, hands trembling, as you leaned down to look under the bed. Two pale eyes stared back at you. Your scream choked in your throat as you scrambled backward. The small figure crawled out, slowly, deliberately. It was Mary Catherine. Her face was wet, her eyes wide with terror. "Help me," she whispered, her voice cracking like broken glass. "Mary!" You rushed to her side, gripping her shoulders. "It's okay. I'm here now. We have to get out of here." Her eyes didn't meet yours. She was staring behind you. "He's here." Her voice was barely a breath, but it was enough to send ice down your spine. You turned slowly. He was standing in the doorway. The grin was gone now. His face was blank, hollow. He raised the axe, gripping it with both hands. "No!" you screamed, shielding Mary with your body. "No!" The axe swung. Crack! The pain was immediate, blinding. You felt the hot sting of it in your back. Your vision blurred as you collapsed onto the cold wooden floor. You gasped, clawing at the boards, trying to pull yourself away. Blood pooled around you, warm and sticky. You heard Mary scream, high-pitched and raw. Her small hands gripped your arm, pulling, tugging. "Get up," she cried. "Please, please get up." Her voice echoed in your ears as you felt yourself slipping. Thump, another step closer. Thump, the axe dragged along the floor. Run, Mary, you croaked, your voice barely a whisper. Run. She didn't move. She stayed by your side, gripping your hand tightly. Her small face was stained with tears. The figure loomed over her now. Please, she sobbed, looking up at him. Please don't. The axe rose high above his head. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating his face in full. For the first time you saw his eyes. They weren't hollow, they were staring right at you. The axe came down. You tried to escape but were lured back to the house. You discovered the eerie figure is not just after you, he's after everyone. The death of Mary Catherine Moore is brutal and unforgettable. The killer's presence becomes more tangible, more real, as you finally get a glimpse of his face. In part 3, the terror continues. More members of the Moore family will face their fate. Will you be able to save any of them, or will you be the next victim? Pain. It crawled up your spine like fire ants gnawing at your nerves. Your eyes fluttered open to the sight of dark wood soaked in crimson. Your head throbbed, and every breath was a struggle, like breathing through broken glass. The smell of copper was thick in the air. Blood. Your blood. You blinked slowly, disoriented, feeling the ache in your back where the axe had struck you. But you were still alive. Alive somehow. The sound of rain hitting the window was distant, like a soft drumbeat behind a wall of fog. Your ears rang, each heartbeat like the ticking of a clock. You could see Mary Catherine's tiny hand inches away from yours. It wasn't moving. Mary? You croaked, barely able to get the word out. Your throat felt raw, like you'd been screaming for hours. No response. Her body lay face down on the floor, her hair matted with blood. Her small frame was still, motionless. A sob racked your chest, but it came out as a wet cough. You reached for her, fingertips brushing against her cold, lifeless hand. Get up, you whimpered. Please get up. But she didn't move. She was gone. Tears mixed with the rainwater that dripped from your face. Your heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. You couldn't save Paul. You couldn't save Mary. And now the house was silent. Too silent. The creak of the hallway floorboards made your breath catch. He was still here. Your heart pounded like a war drum, every beat a desperate cry for survival. Slowly you turned your head toward the doorway. The hallway beyond was dark, illuminated only by the faint flashes of lightning. He was there. Not in the shadows this time, not hiding. He stood at the end of the hall, his face finally visible. His eyes weren't hollow anymore. They were watching you. Two sunken, beady eyes set deep in his skull, locked onto yours. His head tilted slowly, curiously, like a predator watching its wounded prey. You felt his grin before you saw it. Slowly, the corner of his mouth curled upward into a crooked smile. It was too wide, too unnatural. He raised his hand and tapped the axe against the wall. Tap, tap, tap. A warning. You bit down on your lip to keep from screaming. Don't move, don't make a sound. But it didn't matter. He knew you were awake. He took a step forward, slowly, deliberately. His heavy boot thudded against the wood. Thump, another step. Thump. Each step echoed louder, like he wanted you to hear every inch of his approach. Your breathing grew faster, panic clawing at your throat. You had to move. You had to move now. Pain shot up your back as you forced yourself to roll into your side. Your vision blurred with tears, but you didn't stop. One hand in front of the other, you crawled toward the bed. If you could just get under it, maybe he wouldn't see you. Thump, thump. He was closer now. His footsteps were slow but steady, like he had all the time in the world. You reached the edge of the bed and dragged yourself underneath it, every muscle screaming in protest. Your chest heaved with shallow breaths as you lay in the darkness, heart pounding so loudly you were sure he could hear it. The footsteps stopped. Your body froze, He was right outside the door. The room grew colder. It wasn't the storm. It was him. His presence sucked the warmth from the air like a vacuum, leaving only an icy chill. Your teeth chattered, and you clamped a hand over your mouth to keep silent. You watched his boots enter the room, slick with mud and rain. He moved slowly, each step calculated. Water dripped from his coat, forming small puddles on the floor. He stopped at Mary Catherine's body. Your eyes widened in horror as he crouched slowly, his knees bending at unnatural angles. His face hovered just inches from Mary's, his eyes narrowing like he was inspecting her. He reached out one gloved hand and touched her cheek. You clenched your fist, nails digging into your palms. You wanted to scream, to lunge at him, to tear him apart. But you didn't move. He tilted his head again, listening. He stood slowly, head swiveling toward the bed. "Don't look under here. Please don't look under here." But he didn't. Instead, he dragged the edge of the axe along the wall as he walked toward the door. The sound was slow, deliberate, and high-pitched, like nails on a chalkboard. He paused in the doorway, his head turned sharply toward the bed. You squeezed your eyes shut, heart pounding so hard you thought it might burst. "Don't breathe, don't move, don't even think." Several seconds passed. You didn't hear him move. You didn't hear him breathe. Then, thump, thump, thump. His footsteps echoed down the hall, growing fainter and fainter until they disappeared. You didn't move for a long time. Minutes, maybe hours. Time didn't exist in that house. Only terror. You lay under the bed, muscles aching, the cold soaking into your bones. Your breathing was shallow, every breath shaky with fear. Finally, you crawled out, slowly, carefully. Every movement felt like it might alert him, but the hallway was empty. You stumbled to your feet, swaying like a drunk. The pain in your back throbbed with every step. Blood soaked the back of your shirt, warm and sticky. You reached for Mary Catherine, shaking her small body gently. "Wake up," you begged. "Please wake up." Her head lolled to the side, lifeless. Her eyes stared into nothing. "No," you whimpered, cradling her head in your hands. "No, no, no, please don't leave me here." Her small body was so still. You were alone. You hugged her for what felt like an eternity. The storm raged outside, thunder booming like cannon fire. Rain lashed against the windows. Then you heard it. Laughter. Not a child's laughter this time. It was low, guttural, a raspy chuckle that echoed from the hallway. "No!" you screamed, backing into the corner of the room. "Leave me alone!" The laughter grew louder, overlapping with whispers. They came from every wall, every shadow. "He sees you. He sees you." "No, no, no, stop it." You clamped your hands over your ears. But it didn't stop. The whispers grew into a roar. "He sees you. He sees you." You ran. Blind panic took over. You sprinted down the hall, past the photographs, past the shadows, past the stairs. Your vision blurred. You couldn't hear your own thoughts. All you could hear were the voices. You reached the master bedroom and slammed the door shut behind you. The whispers stopped instantly. Silence. But this silence was worse. You turned slowly, your breath shallow and uneven. The room was dim, lit only by flashes of lightning from the window. The bed was large, its blankets wrinkled and tangled. There was someone lying in it. It was Sarah Moore. Her eyes opened slowly, glassy and vacant. Her face was pale, her mouth slightly open as if she were trying to speak. "Sarah," you whispered, inching closer. Her eyes darted toward you, but something was wrong. Her pupils were too wide, swallowing the whites of her eyes. Her jaw moved, but no sound came out. Then slowly her gaze shifted to something behind you. You felt it, the cold breath on your neck. Your eyes filled with tears as you slowly turned around. He was right there, inches from your face, hollow eyes, crooked smile, and the axe was already swinging. Pain was the first thing you felt. It throbbed in your skull, sharp and unrelenting, like jagged glass twisting in your brain. You opened your eyes slowly, blinking away the haze of unconsciousness. Darkness. The air was thick, heavy with the stench of copper. Blood. It was everywhere. The cold, sticky warmth of it clung to your skin, soaking into your clothes. You reached up to touch the back of your head, and your fingers came away wet. Not my blood, someone else's. Your breath came in shallow, panicked gasps as you tried to move, but your body didn't respond. Your limbs were heavy, numb from shock and blood loss. Your heart raced like a wild drumbeat, thundering in your ears. Am I dead? No. I'm still here. I'm still here. Then you remembered. The axe, the man, the grin. Your eyes darted around, searching the shadows. The room was bathed in the faint glow of the storm outside. Flashes of lightning illuminated the blood-soaked floor, the shapes of the broken furniture, the bodies. Your chest tightened. They were all here. Paul, Mary Catherine, Sarah, Josiah, Herman, Boyd, Ina, Lena, all of them. Their twisted, lifeless forms lay scattered like discarded dolls. Their faces were frozen in terror, eyes wide open, mouths twisted in silent screams. No, you choked, trying to crawl toward them. No, no, no! But you weren't alone. A shadow shifted in the corner of the room. He was there, the figure, the man with the axe. He stood by the window, facing away from you, his body outlined in the glow of lightning. His coat hung heavy with rain, his broad shoulders rising and falling slowly. He wasn't moving, just standing, watching the storm. The air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. Every breath you took felt louder than thunder. He knew you were awake. He had to. Your eyes stayed on him, unblinking. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't make a sound. But his head tilted, slow and deliberate, like a predator noticing its prey. His neck twisted until his face was half turned toward you. The grin, that horrible, impossible grin. He turned fully now, his eyes locking onto yours, wide, unblinking, hungry. He raised the axe slowly, letting its blade catch the light of the storm. This was it. You knew it. This was how it ended. No. Your voice was weak, barely more than a whisper. No, please. He took a step forward. Thump. Another. Thump. Your mind screamed for a way out. You had to move. Now. Adrenaline surged through your veins, dulling the pain in your body. You rolled to your side, every muscle screaming in protest. You crawled toward the door, dragging yourself inch by inch, breath coming in frantic bursts. Thump, thump. His steps were heavier, faster now. He was coming for you. No, 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 no. You clawed at the floor, pulling yourself forward. Your fingernails scraped against the wood, snapping one of them clean off, but you didn't care. You had to get out. The door was just ahead, just a few feet more. Thump, thump, thump. He was running now. Your heart surged with panic. You threw your weight forward, reaching for the doorknob. Your fingers grasped it just as you felt him behind you, his cold breath against your neck. Swing! You rolled to the side, and the axe slammed into the floor where your head had been a moment ago. Wood splintered, and the floor groaned in pain. Scrambling to your feet, you ran. Your legs felt like lead, but adrenaline kept you moving. You stumbled into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind you. The moment you turned the lock, you heard the handle jiggle. He was trying to get in. Bang! He hit the door with the axe. Bang! Again, harder this time. The door rattled on its hinges. You didn't have long. The hallway stretched before you like a tunnel to nowhere. Lightning flashed, revealing the stairwell at the end. Run! Don't think! Just run! You bolted, legs burning with every step. You slipped on the blood-slick floor, hitting your knee hard, but you didn't stop. You grabbed the banister and practically threw yourself down the stairs. Each step was a jarring, bone-rattling impact. At the bottom, you spun around. The hallway was empty. The door at the top of the stairs still rattled. He was trapped. but only for a moment. Crack! Wood exploded as the axe broke through the door. You saw his face through the hole, his wild eyes darting back and forth, searching for you. You ran for the kitchen, the back door. You had to escape, but it wouldn't open. No, no, no! You twisted the lock, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The storm outside pounded against the window, rain hammering the glass like a warning. He's coming! He's coming! You spun around, heart pounding, eyes wild. Your gaze landed on the kitchen knives. Fight! The door to the stairs burst open. His heavy footsteps echoed down the hall, slow and steady. He didn't need to run anymore. He knew you had nowhere to go. You gripped the largest kitchen knife you could find, your hands slick with sweat and blood. Your breath came in a sharp, panicked gasps. "Come on," you whispered, raising the knife. "Come on, you monster!" The footsteps stopped just outside the kitchen door. Silence. You held your breath, every muscle in your body coiled like a spring. Then from the darkness beyond the doorway came his voice. "Why are you still fighting?" It wasn't a human voice. It was layered, like multiple voices speaking at once. Deep, hollow, ancient. The hairs on the back of your neck stood on end. Your body trembled, but you tightened your grip on the knife. "Come in here," you snarled. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." The shadow shifted. He stepped into view, slow and deliberate. He wasn't grinning now. His eyes were locked on you, his face a mask of raw, unspoken rage. He raised the axe, his muscles tensing for the swing. "Now!" You lunged forward, slamming the knife into his side. He grunted in surprise, stumbling back, his hand instinctively going to the blade. His grip on the axe faltered, and you kicked it from his hands. It hit the ground with a heavy thud. You didn't stop. You drove the knife in again, and again, screaming with every thrust. "Die!" The storm raged outside. Thunder boomed like the roar of a beast. The lightning lit up the kitchen like daylight, flashing again and again. Each flash revealed the scene in horrific detail, the shadowy figure crumpling to his knees, the blood pooling on the floor, your eyes wild with fury and survival. He fell. You didn't stop. You couldn't. Blood spattered your face. His hollow eyes blinked slowly, his head tilting one final time. The grin returned. "See you soon," he whispered, his voice a rasp of air and blood. And then he stopped moving. You dropped the knife, your breath coming in broken sobs. Your knees buckled, and you collapsed beside him, staring into the darkness. The storm quieted. The whispers faded. For the first time, the house was silent. But as you stared at the man's lifeless face, the grin frozen in place, a chilling realization dawned on you. This house, it never lets anyone leave. Epilogue. You stumbled out of the house just before dawn. Blood dripped from your hands. The storm had passed, but the world felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. You turned back to look at the house one last time. The upstairs window. There he was, watching you, grinning. You stumbled down the street, eyes wide with terror. He wasn't dead. He would never die. And neither would you. The house wouldn't let you.